Without further ado, Guy Mentus, the CEO and President of Guy and News, the CEO and President of Mentus.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, MedTech Directory, for sponsoring this and for allowing me to talk. This is going to be an interesting presentation in the sense that it's going to have some very simple things and some not so simple things. And one of the things we've done, I've done marketing for about, actually, this is scary, almost 50 years. And 40 years in San Diego. And having advanced degrees and whatever in this kind of stuff, I've been struck by the fact that in a lot of our engagements, and millions of dollars being spent in 4 decades by our clients, how little I use of advanced marketing. And I was talking to somebody here a few minutes ago about this. It always comes back to some horrifically simple thing. I never sell any more than marketing 101. I look at a Fortune 500 company, I look at a startup, and I discover that there's some basic, simple thing that has been missed. Or they got too busy, or they lost sight of, or nobody's really looking at that because it's so simple that nobody's looking at it. And what we've discovered over and over and over, that you go back to first principles, and you've heard this elsewhere in many movies, that you have an answer. Now, the answer may be there, now it may not be easy to implement, but the answer is simple in that sense. And so what my presentation is going to be about positioning, sharpening your brand, because that's really what it is. And I'm a fan. I'm going to talk about these kinds of issues so you can see that. And I show the number of slides so you know what you're in for and how long the presentation is going to take. But I'm going to talk about MedTech launches, because that's really what I was told this is about. You have a MedTech company, you have a MedTech agency, you have a MedTech product, and you're launching a product. But you know, interestingly, I didn't know this, but McKinsey tells me that 50% of all MedTech launches fail at some level, which is like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding. I had no idea it's that bad. And this is interesting because when they saw that, why? And you've heard already from Chuck and Rand and Sarah has already shown you that things are moving very quickly. There's a lot to take in mind. And what's happened is that there's a lot of reasons why MedTech launches are way harder. First of all, there's macroeconomic issues that you have no control over, US dollar. Competition. In 5 years, the number of competitors has doubled for whatever it is you're selling, actually, in almost any healthcare market. There's actually less money to spend. There is commoditization, surprise, more products, fewer differentiators, and you hear about the issue. You compete on price. It's happening more and more and more. Me Too products are coming onto the market where the differentiator is price. There's technology, and I'm not talking about your product technology. I'm talking about marketing technology. The issue that Sarah talked about, this is actually becoming analytics that are driven by technology, which means that launches can be faster and cheaper. What took $2 million 15, 20 years ago is taking $200,000 today, which means every Tom, Dick, and Harry is launching a medical product that's going to compete with you. Wow, great for the consumer, terrible for you. And of course that means the consumer, which is the hospital you're talking to, is getting this plethora of messaging hitting them, trying to decide which monitoring piece of equipment they need out of 20 different things that are hitting them every day. So that's a lot to get right. I mean, a real lot to get run. And to have an idea, for those of you who don't run a MedTech company, this is the Mentus checklist, where we have a MedTech client that they're launching a product. These are all the issues they have to deal with, and there's actually more, but these are the basic ones. Now, we don't do that. We only do, actually, this part. And that's the part I'm going to talk about. Can you, is it me or is that out of focus? Okay, well, you can read it anyway. But the point is, it's a whole lot of stuff. It's a whole lot of stuff to get right. And so what's important? And again, my heroes, my gods, McKinsey says, you know, let's look at why, of the 50% that do it right, what is it that they do right that you're not doing right, or the 50% that is failing is not doing right? And they came up, when they looked at all those points that I actually showed you in that list before, and they looked at the top 4 where nearly 50% impact on success. And there are, and you'll notice from the presentation Chuck made about the team, the presentation that Rand made, the presentation that Sarah made about the differentiators and issues you have to deal with. It's team collaboration. how your team works together, the team you put together. It's about market insights, which I want to talk about. It's about the rigorous planning, how well you plan strategically, and it's about how you grow the talent into your organization to do this kind of work on that end. So we're going to talk about the part that matters for us, which is marketing. Marketing insights. What key insights do you have along the lines of what Sarah's talking? Because it's no longer the unique selling proposition. You know, 20, 30 years ago when I got into marketing, or 50 years ago, it was about the USP. You're all digging for this unique selling proposition that makes your product, your company, the only thing out there. And wonderful, it's kind of true, but as Sarah said, it's not. It's the emotional ESP, the emotional selling proposition that ties to the core values of the people you're talking to. That's the home run. That's where you have to go. And what McKinsey found, that these companies that succeed invest in a compelling product positioning that tailors the launch programs, that employ a differentiated launch strategy based on understanding of the market, the consumer, and the competitive situation. They build a value proposition, reflected the needs of those influencing the purchasing decisions based on a deep understanding of consumer needs. You know, now, consumer, I mean, we're talking B2B here. And my world is B2B, not the consumer world. So it is a group buying decision. It's 5, 6, 10 people making this decision in tandem. But the first connection is an individual who sees your outreach, whether it's a social media blog, a post, an ad, whatever it might be. It's still, that first connection is an emotional connection that's tied to their values on that end. So what is market positioning? Because I think that that's everything that you need to know to get started. And how does it fit? Well, it's about targeting your ideal customer and understand their needs and behaviors, and matching your product to what they value. It's not about what you have. It's about what they want and how it's aligned to what you have in a way that your competitors cannot. These three things: what they want, what you have, what your competitors don't. Now, look, your competitors can have everything you have. What you control is how your customer perceives what you have. And the job is to make them perceive it in such a way that's better than what your competitors have got. Where your mission and vision and positioning fits into your corporate value structure as a company. So in a marketing process, we have 3 steps that we do when we get a marketing launch program. We create a brand, and we start with positioning the product. And from that positioning, we develop messaging, what you actually tell a customer, and how you say it. And then you talk about the visual vocabulary. And you look at Sarah's pictures of how GE, that visual vocabulary, what does it look like when you're selling to somebody who wants security? It's not just the words, it's the pictures, it's the look and the feel. You know, it's funny, you see an Apple ad, which is God to me in marketing, and you can remove the logo and remove all the words that say Apple. You know it's an Apple ad. You can do that with Nike. You can do that with any of the great marketers, because it's the visual vocabulary that reflects the messaging, that reflects the positioning that they have for that customer that they're talking to on that end. So that's step 1. Step 2, you implement that. That information you have, you apply it. And you apply it in the brand architecture of your product and in your messaging and all the other brand components that you guys would create into your strategic promotion plan. That's it. Because your job is to connect with a customer. Now, you've all heard about the customer journey. And it's such a simple thing to say, Guy, this is really complex. And, no, it's not. It's 3 things. They don't know who you are, so it's get them to know who you are. Who are you? What are you talking about? 1. Number 2, step 2. Oh, that's interesting. Getting them interested so that they want more information. Step 3, I want to engage. I want to convert. Really, 1, 2, 3. But how you do it is very, very complex, because all the touch points in your relationship with a customer it can have hundreds of touch points, typically a dozen or 2. And these are the areas where you engage, whether they see you as part of a Twitter feed, they see you in social media, they see you through a computer search on a Google search, and appear on a landing page, they see you on your website. You have a sales organization, and maybe a phone call that's made with one of your sales reps. These are all touch points. And in these touch points, this messaging that presents your corporate positioning to that customer in the appropriate way is manifest. So, I told you what it should be. Let's talk about how you do it. I mean, that's usually the key issue. How do you find your marketing, positioning, messaging sweet spot, and how do you differentiate in the market? And this is applying a lot of what Sarah talked about. So I'm going to talk to you about how you do it yourself and then show you some 4 case studies of how we did it very effectively, and it worked for 4 companies. And I picked them by randomly in the sense that they're really very different from each other. Only one of them is a medtech company. So positioning goal, it establishes the brand to deliver a specific value. You know, one of the things I say to a lot of our clients, positioning and messaging improves your profit margins. This is important because how can Apple get away with charging 4 to 5 times the market value for a smartphone? You buy the same thing from about 10 other manufacturers for $200, and you're paying $900 to $1,200 for the same thing. Not a whole lot more functionality, and yet they do it every day. They're selling value. They're getting people who are willing to pay for that value, and that drives revenues. So you make more money. It increases revenues and profits. It builds loyalty and value to your customers. That's Apple. You become a strategic partner to your customers. You become core to their work, and of course that grows greater opportunities going forward. So back to what I said about marketing sweet spot. Look at what your customer needs vis-a-vis what you're offering. Look at what the competitors have and find the areas that you can talk to that they don't see somewhere else. That is your marketing sweet spot on that end. And you focus on the prospect. You do it sharp, clear, and simple in the language of the customer. Now, something I have to say is very, very important. This seems kind of very, very basic, but most of your med tech colleagues find this incredibly difficult. And there's a reason. Typically, when a company tries to do this internally, they have stakeholders in the company. It's your field sales organization, it's your partners and distributors, it's your engineering and development group. You talk to somebody about them and say, what is it that's special about us that we give our customers that they want? Well, you speak to human resources, and a human resources VP will say, or she or he will say, well, you know, whatever it is, it's got to include our people, because we're nothing without our people. Cool. You speak to R&D, your development people, and they'll say, well, wait. It's about innovation. We have the best technology in the place. We have #1 in the world about this technology. It has to be about innovative technology. And you speak to the field sales organization. It's about the customer. Got to have the customer in there. So by the time you got this done, we did this for a company, a $9 billion, one of the world's largest trucking companies. They've been trying this for 3 years internally. Well-managed organization. But that very good well-management thing made it impossible because there was too much respect within the organization for each department of the company. So when the C-suite talked, they all listened too much. And it gave us 5 long paragraphs of what they achieved after 3 years. Hopeless. You need somebody who doesn't give a damn about the interior politics, not politics, stakeholders. All the exterior person cares about is that it works, that your customer gets it, that it gives you an ROI that works for you. And so this is what you end up doing. Almost always has to be done outside. This is one of those things in marketing that must be outsourced on that end. And the way you do it, you do through competitive research. You do it through analyzing the customer and understanding their pain points and their gaps. And perceptively, sometimes, it's what they perceive as a problem when you may feel it may not be a problem. That's why you have to be outside. And then you create a unique value proposition. 3-step process. 1, you understand your customer. Remember, you just heard a while ago, understand your best customer. Understand what you want out of your best customer on that side. And this comes through all the things that Sarah talked about. You then create the positioning, a compelling story. And it has to be a story that they can understand emotionally. And a unique differentiator. And we do this through a process of a positioning workshop that tests the competitive landscape, and we test and validate the message. And from there, you then develop a marketing roadmap, which is an action plan to support the positioning we created so that your sales organization can use it, your advertising can use it, your social media agency and social media department can use it in all the ways that matter on that side. And it's funny, once you've done it, It's like, oh, we're done, we're fine. No, you're not, because it goes away. Because things change. As you heard from the previous three speakers, things change now in a drop of a hat, dime, whatever, one of those things. The reality is they change very quickly. And a good example of this is FedEx. You're familiar, obviously, one of the great success stories in market positioning. When they launched, there was only one competitor, US Postal Service. And they were in the same business. The point of parity is that they both did shipping. The difference was overnight. You will get it tomorrow at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, by noon, whatever. That was unique. Fantastic, home run. 10 years later, guess what? All of a sudden, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the shipping business had overnight services, including US Post Office. So that went away as a point of differentiation. I'm just very simplistic, but that's really what happened. So all of a sudden, overnight shipping became the common denominator of what was going on. So again, you have to grow. And they did. And you get to number 3. So what you're seeing is that this is typical in positioning, and an example is of Coca-Cola. And you can see how the company in 120 years, 140 years has changed in the same kinds of ways, and you can see a little bit of what the look and feel in this is. So this shows you a little bit of what the steps are in trying to do this, but it may be easier to see it in the guise of 4 case studies. And what I'm going to do is show you a medtech device that used actually humor as part of the repositioning of the company. Number 2, I'm going to show a the company, the next one. Well, you'll see it when we get to it. So let's start with the process. We have a one-day workshop, and there's other processes, but what we like is we typically meet with the C-suite for one day in one room with no cell phones, and it's 9 o'clock to 4 to 5 o'clock typically. We prepare about a month in advance, doing the market research that the company needs, and out of that process, we evaluate what the company wants to do, what the market goals are, and what the competitive environment is. And in that context, we'll then come up with a positioning statement. And after that positioning statement, we'll create the messaging that the company needs. So let's look at a company called Sotero Wireless. Does anybody know who this company is? Are you familiar with them? Good, that's made it easier for me. But the reality is the company was created about a decade ago, developing a new generation of vital signs monitoring called VisiMobile. And it actually monitors all core vital signs in a hospital, initially in an ICU, now throughout the hospital. The problem is it's an incredibly explosive market with many companies going into the same market at the same time. And it was a competitive race to establish a brand image, enabling improved staff efficiency and improved patient outcomes. The problem is that that position is not unique. So what we did is we created a unique positioning about monitoring patients remotely in real time while both the patient and nurse were in motion. Now, the patient can be anywhere in the hospital, the nurse can be anywhere in the hospital, and if something goes wrong, bingo, they're on it instantly on that side. We call that monitoring in motion, and build a whole campaign around it, a complete rollout based on that campaign. And all the things that you talk about. And if you look at the pieces, it's easier to see when you see how the things look, not that the things are special in any particular way, but how everything is tied to the issue of monitoring in motion. So that as you continue to campaign, and 10 years later, we're still their agency. So the reality of the thing is working on that side. Let's look at an entirely different company called Halozyme Therapeutics. And this is another company in San Diego. The company provides recombinant human enzymes. In the original market was in vitro fertilization, where typically the same kind of products came from bovine, from bulls, basically. And the problem with bull's eyes, think of encephalitis, bovine disease. Very dangerous, possibly risky, essentially, in a very basic sense, dirty kind of products. And they went against that, being the very first company to provide recombinant human enzymes, were completely safe, pure, and consistent on that end. The problem the company had is that it was the very first company in America in 2004, 2005, in 1998, that went public through a reverse merger. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but a reverse merger is not an IPO. It's basically you buy a registered security name that the SEC already has in place, but companies usually going bankrupt. but they save that, and you can buy it and go public automatically with it. The bad news is, it's a quiet event. Nobody knows about you. There are no road shows. There's no media coverage whatsoever. All of a sudden, you're a public company. And it's like saying, hey, guess what? Right now, I'm a public company. It's like, so what? No media exposure. And this is a company that needed to launch 2 products the previous year. So they needed to be differentiated from other existing slaughterhouse-derived extract type of companies on that side. So what we did is, we created a positioning called Improving the Practice of Medicine by Delivering Enhanced and Innovative Alternative to Slaughterhouse Extracts and Humanizing Solutions. Now, what's interesting about this is, in the positioning, we looked at what the market wanted, and they, first of all, needed to have a strong scientific underpinning of a revolution in drug dispersion, but playing on the sense that all of a sudden, having these products where they were safer, purer, no bull, because there's no bull involved in the process. And so we launched it this way, which is unique. I mean, in that marketplace, as a differentiator, it played humor. Humor was never something as a value issue that was ever used in that industry whatsoever, because it's deadly serious. It was a home run. The very first national conference they went to, we had like 900 premiums, these little stuffed toys. They disappeared in an hour. The company has now become one of the most prominent companies in San Diego in this space. But it's a case of playing off with these core values, as indicated by Sarah, and using the hard science in one of those areas, tied with the issues of this emotional component that clients would have. And it's about as diametrically opposite as you can kind of get. Very risky, and the company had a lot of guts to go that route, and it paid off for them. In a more traditional kind of company, a CMO, a contract manufacturing organization that actually manufactures pharmaceutical injectables for Big Pharma in Spokane, Washington, came to us and indicated that they're having a problem connecting with Big Pharma. They were only used in Tier 3 contracts, and they want to move to Tier 1, Tier 2 contracts. So we took a look and did market research in terms of what was important for the customers and for the company. The company said that the most important things were speed, technology, speed and technology, number 1 and number 2, and then price, number 3. We discovered the opposite. Trust was number 1, trust and reliability. Customer service was number 2. And completely a customer-centric point of view. So we created a whole different point of view based on the customer. You know, exceeding customer expectations, delivering quality that you expect, and the service that you deserve. Now, this is something in the consumer side, for service business, you see every day. In the B2B contract manufacturing space for Big Pharma, you didn't. Because people bragged about their technology. They bragged about how quickly they could do it. And to be honest with you, how cost effective they could be. And it changed everything, because we created at your service as the driver, and it worked. It was a home run, because all of a sudden, the campaigns were like, you know, how long did they make you wait with the campaigns? If you look at their ads, they look like a restaurant ad, not a big pharmaceutical contract manufacturing ad on that side. And the reality is, everything we did for them paid off in the same kind of way, including the website. Now, this is a duck in a barrel, or a fish in a barrel here, because their original website was horrific. However, if you look at where they went, it's a completely different point of view. These are people that you want to work with. These are people that, as a customer, are people you want to have contracts with. You trust these people. These are the kinds of people you want working for yourself. And we applied the same kind of positioning, marketing, to a new product launch. Because if you have the right kind of market positioning, you can then have line extensions, because you can apply the same principles, the same value structure to products as you go forward. That's why your brand architecture is so important. They created a new multiple skin test allergy system that had 10 all at once that didn't hurt a patient. Up to now, it was a nightmare. For a patient who had allergies that needed to have skin testing for the allergies, it was something that they dreaded. And we actually then launched this with some very hard data on the client side in terms of what they needed to achieve. So we played off the extreme comfort, calling it the product came comfort. Take comfort, Comfort 10, and created a campaign. And these are 2 visualizations of ideas we had. You know, scaring you about, you don't have to be afraid. The skin testing doesn't have to be scary. Or the other side of it, it's pleasant and warm and wonderful, great things come in 10. And actually we ended up with Take Comfort as the campaign on that end. They worked. The corporate campaign at BIO, the national conference, secured 4 times the number of qualified leads and realized almost a 50% increase in sales in 6 months. The Comfort 10 was a complete success. Unlike other launches, it exceeded their projections by 25% and actually led to an acquisition, M&A. They got acquired a year later by Julian Organesis in India. And finally, the last one, and I threw this in because to show you that this applies everywhere. And I thought I would bring a car wash manufacturer in Des Moines, Iowa, as an example of how you can do this. This is a company that at the time was one of the largest car wash manufacturing firms in America and had some interesting technology that was very good. The problem is they were seen as an old dinosaur with no growth prospects at all. A PE firm took over, fired the management, put a new management team in place from Southern California, from Orange County, just FYI. A former client of ours. Actually, this is their 5th company that team had been under, and we were the agency for each one of their previous 4 companies. And they wanted a new modern brand and a comprehensive repositioning of the company. They wanted to reinvigorate the company, its employees, and their place in the market because the employees were kind of nervous for obvious reasons. You have the management team get fired for 400 employees. This is not a good place to be in terms of reinvigorating them. So we had to create something that would show this as a new company entirely. And one of the things about that business that's important is their customer typically is not one car wash. These are people who have 300 or 400 or 500 car washes. And so typically for them it's an investment. And it's a very important investment. And it's one of the things I learned about car washes. If you have a gas station, your margin's about 10 to 20%. If you have a car wash, your margin's 80%. What business do you want? If you have a gas station and you have enough space so you can put a car wash into your gas station, guess what? Is that the best investment you can possibly do? Especially for a company here that would do the financing and everything else around it. So the positioning was about the car wash owner and the investor. Delivering maximum profitability, ensuring the highest degree of reliability. And for the investor, top line revenue growth and exceptionally high gross margins. So we're talking about that. So rebranding the company, 1950s kind of market, that's the previous market. And their previous, another fish in a barrel website, good God. Any agency would have done a better job in this. And new brand, very simple. And you're looking at a whole look and feel. But the brand became Car Wash 2.0. A new world of car washing that had a whole different look. A whole different, I mean, totally different look. This is not the Des Moines, Iowa car wash company. This is a Southern California car wash company, which meant that both the investors saw them moving to a new kind of marketplace, which it is a new marketplace. This is a market Generation X, Generation Millennials are going to be shopping at or using and cleaning their, wash their cars, whatever. And a new website for the obvious reasons based on the same thing. This is my commercial. So the reality is you can see how you can come up with dramatically different answers if you apply the look and feel based on the values of your customer created through a market positioning that's based on those customer values. But they got to be the ones that are relevant to your company, relevant to your product, and they have to be done in a very, very rigorous kind of process. And that's how Mentus does it. I mean, we provide these services, which are kind of typical on that end, and we're there. Thank you.